safely above the noise floor. We define the lower edge of the dynamic range at a value which is reasonably high compared to the noise floor. That value, by that factor by which it should be higher, is generally defined by system designers. Typically 5 to 10 dB higher is the minimum that you need to do. On the upper side, when P input is getting large, you want to stop at a point which is safely below the so-called compression point, compression region. Compression region is the region where you first see the departure from nonlinearity. So about 2 or 3 dB below that will be safe. So dynamic range is the safe range over which the performance of the amplifier will be presumed or can be assumed to be linear. All this relates to noise, because if noise floor is high, dynamic range lower edge will be affected. And if the nonlinearity is high, then of course the upper edge of the dynamic range will be affected. Okay. Realistic amplifiers or real life amplifiers are always noisy, and they always have nonlinearity. This curve, which I'm showing in figure 1, is a real life situation. Noise floor value typically is minus 80 dBm or minus 90 dBm and things. It's very low, that's for sure. The exact value depends on the context. Okay. Now let's move forward. So far we have been assuming, without stating it openly, that all components, amplifiers, filters, attenuators, etc. in the system are linear. That is, output signal is linearly proportional to the input signal. Figure 1 shows that that's not true. Also, we assume that if we know the input signal, the output signal can be predicted after knowing gain, etc. That also doesn't work out, because output signal will have noise signal which is random, which is not really dependent on the input signal, input desired signal. There will be noise input power also. Besides P in, there will be N in also, which I am not showing in the picture here. And that N in will get multiplied by G and will be seen at the output as N out. And not only that, the amplifier's internal circuitry will also add noise. So N out will be N in multiplied by G plus something more, which is the power, noise power added by the internal circuitry. It's a very complicated scenario. Okay, so let's get back to this. The dynamic range can be defined, if necessary, in terms of output signal level 2 or input signal both. That's a given. Now let's look at some basic definitions. We have done some of them already. Let's look at them once again. Gain small g on absolute scale is P out in watts divided by P in watts. In dB, of course, you represent it by capital G, which is tan log of small g. So tan log of P out in watts minus tan log of P in watts, which means P out in dBW minus P in dBW. And you can convert that into dBm. So gain in dB is P in dBm, sorry, P out in dBm minus P in dBm. Okay, that we have done this already. Now, This value of gain ideally should be constant, no matter what the input power you feed. That is called linearity. That's one of the main conditions of linearity. In reality, even if P in is 0, that is, nothing is connected to the input of the amplifier output would still show some power level, which is known as noise power or noise floor. I have already told you this, it's written also. The lower edge of the dynamic range can generally be defined as some value safely higher than the noise floor. Okay, I said that already. The upper edge of the dynamic range can generally be defined as some value safely lower than the level at which compression first occurs. Gain compression means the value of P in or P out at which P out versus P in curve starts departing from linearity. You can define gain compression point in terms of input power or in terms of output power. Both are okay. Now comes a very important definition. You may have been taught this, but let's go over it once again. Signal to noise ratio. It is the ratio of signal power, average signal power, which is the desired power. And now I'm calling the desired signal as S rather than P. That's what books do all the time. So desired signal being fed to the input. And by the way, I'm representing the amplifier as a two-port network. So the input power, input desired power is SI, output desired power is SO. They are in watts. Some input noise power is being sent in for whatever reasons, and some noise power N naught in the output is being produced. If you take SI divided by NI ratio, assuming that SI and NI are in watts or picowatts or microwatts, then that is known as input signal to noise ratio. SI divided by NI is input signal to noise ratio, and SO divided by NO is known as the output signal to noise ratio. Obviously, these ratios should be as high as possible because the ability of the system to detect the desired signal will be much better if these ratios are high. Typically 10 dB or higher is preferred. Now SNR can be defined either in absolute terms, that means ratio of two values in watts, or you can also define it in terms of dB. SNR in dB at input is tan log SI upon NI, where SI is in watts and NI is also in watts. And SNR in the output in dB is also similarly defined. Okay. Keep in mind that SO equal to G times SI, but NO equal to G times NI plus something more, which is internally generated. Now, the most important noise, I told you already, the most significant noise, in fact, that is seen is due to effects of temperature of operation. It is called thermal noise. It is the molecular vibrations in all components that generate this random noise. The average power contained in this kind of noise has been derived by physicists. I'm not going to do the derivation here. The final formula, approximate formula, is the thermal noise power in watts is small k multiplied by capital T multiplied by capital P. Small k is a constant called Boltzmann constant. Capital T is the operating temperature in Kelvin. 0 Kelvin is absolute temperature. That means free space temperature. And at that value, there will be no thermal noise. Capital B is the bandwidth of operation. if it's an amplifier, over what bandwidth it is supposed to operate in hertz. This approximate equation is used very commonly to model the thermal noise. It produces powers of the order of picowatts for most operating temperatures. Thermal noise is also given other names like Johnson noise, Nyquist noise, etc., etc. This is the most basic kind of noise encountered in RF microwave systems. It is caused by thermal vibrations of bound charges, which is basically molecules coming together. All components produce this: inductors, resistors, capacitors, diodes, transistors. Even if you want to think about it, even cables and connectors can do it also, although the noise produced by them will not be significant. There are other kinds of noises also, which we may not be too interested in, but at least you should be aware. There is something called a short noise, which is caused by random fluctuation of charge carriers in a vacuum tube or solid state device. If it is available, if it is a serious issue, then you have to add that also in the calculations. Flicker noise is due to some semiconductor phenomena called flickering. It is inversely proportional to the frequency of operation. Okay, so it reduces at RF microwave frequencies, but still you should be aware that these things are there. Plasma noise is produced especially if your system is operating in ionized medium, which is generally not the case for us, so it's okay. There's another noise called quantum noise, which is because of the quantized nature of charge carriers. But again, for RF microwave systems, it's not so critical. But I thought I'll give you the names at least. Thermal noise is our main concern right now. Now, another mathematical parameter that we define is the ratio of signal to noise ratio at input and signal to noise ratio at output. SNR at the input divided by SNR at the output. In an ideal world, SNR at the input and SNR at the output should be the same if the internal circuitry of the amplifier is adding no noise. In that case, noise factor will be 1. In practice, it is never true. Noise factor always happens to be more than 1. Noise figure is in dB. This is nothing but noise factor. You take log of it and multiply by 10. For a given component, vendors normally give us noise figure value besides the gain value. Okay. Now, there is a formula. If you have a cascaded chain of components, let's say amplifiers, a formula for gain, for the overall gain, is very easy to figure out. If the gain of amplifier 1 is small g1 in the absolute sense, and gain of second stage or second amplifier is small g2 and so on, you simply multiply all the gains to get the overall gain. In dB terms, instead of multiplying, you add the gains. If you know each of the gains in dB, then you simply add them up to get the overall gain. That's simple. In addition to that, how do you figure out the overall noise figure if you are given the individual noise factors of each of the amplifiers? It's a very important calculation in systems. There's a formula that has been derived, and its derivation is available in books. Overall noise factor is the noise factor of the first amplifier, F1, plus noise factor of the second amplifier minus 1 divided by gain of the previous stage, which is G1, plus noise factor of the third amplifier minus 1 divided by the product of the gains of the previous 2 stages, G1, G2, and so on. We'll be using this formula in numerical examples. This is how we calculate the overall F of a large chain of components. Now let's look at a problem. I want you to read it for a minute. Hopefully you can read it. A power amplifier has SI, that is input desired power, as 1 nanowatt, input noise power as 10 picowatt. You can figure out input SNR right away. It's 1 nanowatt divided by 10 picowatt. Okay. And if you take 10 log of that value, that will be SNR in dB at the input. Now the amplifier has a gain of 20 dB. It's given to us. The internal circuitry of the amplifier adds 0.01 microwatt noise power to the signal. Calculate the noise figure of the amplifier. As I said, input SNR is very easy to figure out. SI divided by NI. 1 into 10 raised to the power minus 9 watts divided by 10 multiplied by 10 raised to the power minus 12 watts, which gives us, hope my calculations are right. I think they are okay. Input SNR is 100 on the absolute scale. If you take 10 log of that, you'll get 20 dB. Now output desired power is easy to figure out. It is simply input SI multiplied by small g. Small g is 100. Small g, yes, 20 dB. So you'll have to convert that into small g. Small g will be 10 raised to the power 20 divided by 10. Right? Capital G is 10 log small g. So from there you figure out small g. I think it works out to 100. So you multiply 100 by SI, which is 1 nanowatt. Output desired power turns out to be 0.1 microwatt. So far, so good. No issue. No. They are straightforward desired power calculations. Now look at the noise power. Input noise is 10 picowatt. In the output, you will get Ni multiplied by small g plus the noise power added by the internal circuitry. This is how you write it. Please double check my calculations. If not right now, then once you get the document. G, small g is 100, Ni is, double check. Ni is 10 picowatt, yes, that's correct. And the internally generated or internally added noise is 0.01 microwatt. Yeah. So you do all that, you get noise output power or output noise power as 11 nanowatt. Now output desired power is 0.1 microwatt. So take the ratio of the two. That gives you output SNR in dB. Actually, first you get the number in not in dB, then you convert that into dB. Noise factor is not calculated. We have directly calculated noise figure, which is SNR input, SNR at the input in dB minus SNR output in dB. So noise factor turns out to be noise figure turns out to be 10.41 dB, and you do the inversion to get the noise factor, which is 10 raised to the power 1.041, which is 10.99. In an ideal world, input SNR and output SNR would have been equal. So noise figure would have been 0 dB and noise factor would have been 1. But that's not the case here. This is a very noisy amplifier apparently. It is adding a lot of internal noise to the desired signal. So input SNR was 20 dB, and in the output we saw that SNR reducing to 9.59 dB. The amplifier has degraded the input SNR by more than 10 dB. It's a noisy amplifier. Okay. Anyway, that's the way it is. Next problem is quite interesting. I've told you in the past that a communication system essentially has a transmitter out of which an antenna takes the power and sends it over through the channel to the receiver. That power is generally a very high frequency power. It has got a modulated signal which has all the data and voice signal that you want to send over on the other side. On the receiving side, the signal received is generally quite low because there is a lot of loss between transmitter and receiver. And not only that, there will be, as I said, noise also added in the process. That's also part of the problem. So all that has to be kept in mind when designing receivers. Receivers have a tough task. They have to decode all the information that was sent from the transmitting side. So this is the beginning section of a typical receiver. The input power coming into the receiver has SI as the desired signal, which can be a very low value, minus 50 dBm, minus 70 dBm or so on. And it also has input noise coming in, which will be low, but will not be zero for sure. Okay. In fact, they have given those values later, but let me first explain the block diagram. Then we'll look at the numerical values. The first element in the receiver is always what we call a low noise amplifier, which is an amplifier which does not add much noise to the signal. Because signal is already very small, if you can avoid adding more noise to it, that will help further down the line in demodulating the signal and extracting the info that is contained in the signal. So low LNA, low noise amplifier, is the first element, and they have given us the gain of that amplifier as 10 dB and noise figure as 2 dB. 2 dB is not bad at all. Ideally, noise figure should be 0, but that's not possible. So 2 dB is not that different from 0 dB. That's what I'm telling you. This noise figure of 2 dB is far better than the noise figure we saw in the previous example, where it was 10.41 dB. So this LNA is a power amplifier with a much better noise figure. After that, what happens is LNAs, whether you like it or not, they become nonlinear, at least partially. So they produce frequencies other than the desired frequencies. So we need to put a bandpass filter to remove unwanted frequencies. That's the reality, like it or not. That's why they have shown a bandpass filter as the second component in the receiver. And insertion loss of the bandpass filter is given to us, which is essentially 10 log input power divided by output power. It is 1 dB, sorry. And noise figure for the bandpass filter is also given as 1 dB. Okay, fine. Then a third component comes in, which you may not have heard about so far. It is called down converter or down converting mixer. What happens is the signal coming in on the receiving side is quite high in frequency. I have told you that. It is in gigahertz, 2 gigahertz, 1.9 gigahertz, 2.4 gigahertz, whatever. Generally, it is not possible to process the signal at that frequencies accurately. We down convert the signal to a into a somewhat lower frequency, and there the signal processing is much more easily achieved. The down converting action is done through a component called mixer. The frequency coming in is reduced to some other frequency. Basically, a mixer takes the what we call the input frequency as radio frequency, RF, that comes in from the left side. There's a third port also in the mixer, which feeds a stimulating signal at some frequency called local oscillator frequency. I'll show that in a minute in a diagram. So that frequency gets subtracted from the RF, radio frequency, and the difference comes out as what we call intermediate frequency. This is a must for receivers to do their job reliably. So these three components are shown in this problem as the front end. This is called front end of the receiver. Okay. Now calculations. Compute the overall gain and overall noise figure of this subsystem. It is not a full system. It is not a full receiver. It is a part of the receiver. So it is being given the name subsystem, which is fine. There is a second part also, but let's look at the first part carefully. Overall gain. Since all gain or insertion loss values are given in dB, you simply have to do summation and addition. The first component has a gain of 10 dB. So take plus 10. The second component has a loss of 1 dB. So you subtract 1 dB from 10, you get 9 dB. The third component also has a conversion loss or insertion loss, which is 3 dB. So out of 9 dB that you got, you subtract another 3 dB. So the total gain that remains is 6 dB. This is one of the biggest advantages of using logarithmic scales. You simply add up or simply add and subtract to get the overall gain. So overall gain of this front end is 6 dB. You can just do it on your fingers here. That part is simple. The second part is overall noise figure. In fact, overall noise figure. For that, we will be going back to this formula that I showed you, this one here. Maybe you can note it down. Take 1 minute, note it down. We have three components. So the formula for overall noise factor will be F1 plus F2 minus F1 upon G1 plus F3 minus 1 upon G1, G2. We will stop there because only three components are there, right? The rest of the formula does not matter to us. This is what I am trying to do here. Oh, first of all, I'm explaining a lot of things here. Let me read it once again for the sake of clarity. A mixer changes the frequency of the input signal. If the output frequency is less than the input frequency, we call it a down converting or down converter or down converting mixer. Both words are used. If the output frequency is more than the input frequency, we call it a up converter. Up converters are used in transmitters and down converters are used in receivers. So this is the diagram that gives you the nomenclature clearly. A mixer is actually, it's a nonlinear semiconductor device which is used in the square law region. So it produces the sum and difference of the two input frequencies. Let me spend a few minutes explaining this. Someday you will have to be dealing with these components anyway. FR is one of the input frequencies. FLO, which is a local oscillator, which is built in to the design, which produces a fixed frequency called local oscillator frequency, or FLO. So what happens is, because of the squirrel law region of the diode or transistor inside, at the output you get sum and difference of the two input frequencies, and you filter out the sum and just take out the difference in this case. That's how down converter works. The output frequency is known as intermediate frequencies. Typically, if the radio frequency signal is, say, at 4 gigahertz, the LO would be, let's say, around 3.9 gigahertz or so. Okay. I mean, my point is that intermediate frequency generally is not very high. It is standard in industry to go for IF equal to either 70 megahertz, 70, or 140 megahertz, 140. All vendors develop their signal processing components at these two IFs. So all engineers around the world, typically at least, design assuming that they will be using an intermediate frequency of either 70 megahertz or 140 megahertz. If you do at other frequencies, you will have difficulty getting components in the market to do the job, and you generally don't have time to design everything by yourself. That's the reality. So intermediate frequency typically is in megahertz. Okay, while input frequencies are in gigahertz. The difference is not too large. That's the whole. This is the mixer. Up converter is the opposite of it, and it is not used in the receivers. It is used in the transmitter. So let me ignore it for now. Okay. Low noise amplifier, I have already explained to you. It is an amplifier with low noise figure. Band pass filter is necessary to remove the unnecessary frequencies from the output of the LNA. In fact, a band pass filter, although it is not shown, will be invariably present even at the output of the down converter, because down converter also produces lot of unwanted frequencies. So a band pass filter has to be there, maybe even more than one. But in this problem, they have ignored that. So fine, because if they had included it, we would have got a chain of 4 components, lot more complicated. So to simplify the calculations, they have ignored the second band pass filter. Now calculations. Gain, I have already explained to you. It's very easy to figure out. It's 6 dB. Remember, loss in dB is, if you take minus of that, that becomes gain in dB. So loss for filter was given as 1 dB. So gain becomes minus 1 dB. The loss of mixer was given as 3 dB. So gain becomes minus 3 dB. Okay, that's how gains are written. Now, to apply the formula for noise factor, we will have to convert all the individual gains into absolute values. That's step number 1. Okay, I see that we are running out of time, so fine. Let me briefly explain the calculation process. You'll get the document. Try doing it next time. Also, I'll go through it once again. Overall calculation of noise factor requires that you figure out all the gains in absolute scale first. Okay. GA was the gain of the first stage, that is that of the amplifier. It was given as 10 dB. So small GA is easy to figure out. It works out to be 10, I think. Yeah. The noise figure is given for this first element, or for the first component, as 2 dB. So you first convert that into noise factor, because formula requires noise factor, not noise figure. If NFA is given, from there you figure out FA as 10 raised to the power NFA divided by 10. So it turns out to be 1.5849 approximately. Then for the second component, the gain is minus 1 dB. Loss is 1 dB, so gain is minus 1 dB. You convert that into absolute value. by doing this operation, GF equal to 10 raised to the power minus 1 upon 10. So the gain of the second stage is obviously less than 1. It is 0.7943. There is a loss at it. The third stage also has a loss. So the gain is actually minus 3 dB, I think, for the mixture. 1 minute. Yeah, the gain of the third stage or third component is minus 3 dB. So we use that to calculate the absolute value of gain of the mixer. It also turns out to be less than 1, obviously. And the noise figure is given as 4 dB for the mixer. So you convert that into noise factor, which is 2.5119. With all these values, which are not in log scale now, you use the formula. F overall is F1, which is 1.5849. In fact, it's FA, sorry. First component is FA. First component is being called A. 1.5849 plus F2 minus 1. That means the second component's F, which is 1.2589 minus 1 divided by gain of the previous stage, which is 10. Okay. Plus F2 minus 1. F2 is the noise factor of the last stage, which is 2.5119 minus 1 divided by the multiplication of the gains of the previous two stages. So G1 and G2, which means GA and GF. 10 and 0.7943. Right. So do the calculation. The overall noise factor works out to approximately 1.80. And you take 10 log of that, the overall noise figure works out to 2.55 dB. There is a second part of the problem, which I'll take next time. I think it's enough for one lecture. You have a lot to digest. The second part is to calculate the output noise power when input noise power is given. I'll take up next time, but I'll send you the document. You can look at the entire document if you want before you come to the next lecture. Okay. And so in the next lecture, we'll spend maybe 10 minutes completing the discussion on noise. And then we will move forward to transmission lines. But before that, I'll also talk about, or I'll review the concept of phasors, which is a technique used for simplifying the mathematical analysis of AC systems or high frequency systems. Okay. So let me see. I think I'll stop it here now.